Hi, welcome to Hamilton and Hazen, Behind the Mic. Join author M.L. Hamilton and me, I'm narrator Kelley Hazen, as we discuss our latest audiobook. Born from more than a decade of award-winning collaboration and almost 100 audiobooks we've produced together, listen to the ins, the outs, the ups, and the downs, the inside track you love to follow, Behind the Mic.
Welcome to Behind the Mic. This is number 29. Hi, Kelley.
Hi. My chair is on a slant, and so if I don't put this is crazy. Okay, go ahead.
So this is we're going to be talking about our 90-second audiobook. This is in our children's series, the Rue Cyprus Mysteries. This is volume 3, and the title is The Case of the Lost Boy. And I'm going to turn over the hosting duties to you today. And so take it away.
It's our 29th episode of Behind the Mic. Isn't that amazing? I think that's amazing. And normally, you and I think you will confirm, normally you and I would take a few moments, at least a few moments, sometimes as long as a half hour or an hour, because we don't, talk live and in person that often. And just to kind of make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
But I said, let's just wing it. And because there's a method to my madness, we keep threatening, we keep telling you that we're threatening to do this podcast.
Yes.
Hashtag write that down. And I thought it would just be, and that will be completely off the cuff, not scripted, not prepared for in any way. And so I thought it would be interesting if we just did that and see if we're even remotely interesting in that format, and then we won't waste our time if we find out we're dull as dishwater and can't think of anything to say.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
what are you going to do?
I'm
okay.
Experimenting.
Yeah. So I think actually, I can't remember if we did, and I don't think we did, but I think sometimes we would not do a behind the mic on the young reader stuff. I don't know why. Maybe it was because it was really short, or but I think this is a great opportunity to talk about a lot of different stuff.
Right.
And the thing that came out, okay, and so what our fans are not as familiar with these books because they're geared toward young readers, right?
Right.
And some, and our fans are like, I love this author, but why should I read a book for an 8-year-old, So it's kind of, they go kind of under the radar in terms of the mainstream audience that we tend to entertain most of the time. And one of the things that came up when and also they're very short, these books, right? What was this one, like 3 hours? Yeah. And I mean, the average audiobook is at least 4 and usually 6 to 8. So hours long. So one of the things that came up while we were recording it was that, and I find this really interesting because it talks about you and your process, and you consider yourself, and I think it's accurate, an author that writes across genre.
Right.
Right. But, and you write across genre, right? We're recording an epic fantasy right now, cozy mystery, but then all of a sudden it's like cozy mystery, young reader mystery, Peyton is a mystery. Rue Cyprus is a young reader mystery. Even the year of living dangerously. The Year of Discovery. That's a great Sigourney Weaver, Mel Gibson movie, by the way. But the Year of Discovery, there's always still very often an element of suspense. And you made a comment, and I can't remember if it was about Lost Boy or if it was about and again, this is another big announcement that you're adding to the World of Samar series, which I think is something we should talk about today. But you were talking about just you call it a palate cleanser, but I think it goes deeper than that because I mean, mystery, 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 mystery. Talk about how it feels as a writer when you feel the need to distance yourself from that, how you heal yourself, for lack of a better word, and then when do you know it's time to come back? So those three, I'm interested in those three elements because we've always called it a palate cleanser, but I'd like to go deeper on that topic.
So, for me, the mysteries are so deliberate, and they by nature they have to be, for me. I'm not a pantser kind of writer. I can't just write off the cuff. I need
What is that what that means?
Yeah, pantser is somebody who just writes off the cuff. They don't plot it out. They just
Spell that.
Pantser.
Oh, off like by the seat of their pants.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm not that kind of a writer even in the fantasies, but I'm a very much a plotter. But with the mysteries, it is so it's so constrained, right? And so you have to obey the laws of nature, you have to obey the laws of the government, you have to obey the laws of your city or state or whatever it is. And it requires quite a bit of research. And so they are, while I love writing mysteries, they're laborious. It's a lot of preparation. It's a lot of um, thought process. It's a lot of plotting. It's a lot of just pre-work. Like I started the pre-work for the next Peyton yesterday, and I was at it for over 2 hours, and I got 3 chapters plotted out.
And you love that. You love that. Why?
I enjoy doing that because it's just that trying to pull everything together. I made a social media post today that it's kind of like doing a braid. You're weaving the different strands in, and then you're sprinkling it with a little bit of gems, your clues and stuff. Um, but it's very labor intensive, and it's very restrictive in a way, which is good. It has its good points and its bad points. Um, when I talk about a palate cleanser, there's something freeing about writing the fantasies and the epic fantasies because I've created the entire world. The
Mhm.
laws of that world are what I've created. The what happens in that world is what I created. And that's not to say that I'm not a pantser in writing the fantasies, but they are plotted out. But where I go with it is freeing. And so there's some liberation to that. And so what it does is it kind of resets my creative process, my creative mind, and allows me then to go back to the mysteries and bring something forward to it. Because what worries me deeply is I don't ever want to become formulaic. And I worry sometimes that the mysteries could become formulaic if I didn't take a break and write something else that recharges that creative battery, if you will, for want of a better word. So that's
That's that's fascinating. So in the fantasy world, you get to make the rules, right? You get to set the boundaries.
exactly. And as long
Wow.
as I stay consistent to my rules, people will accept it.
Now I have a question for you because this is interesting. We're getting, and we'll get back to Lost Boy, but we're getting into, I've started reading The Renegade of Eldon, which is book 10
Yes,
in the World of Samara series. It's currently the penultimate novel.
right,
And so two things on that. You have chosen a topic within this epic fantasy series, Samar, particularly here at the end. It
yeah,
wasn't there at the beginning, which is this this racial prejudice and excuse me, the uh, for lack of a better word, the subjugation of women. And you've touched on that now in at least the last two or three books.
right.
Um, are you concerned that's at all formulaic? Do you feel like, or what do you think?
That's a really good question. No, I don't, because I think this is the my brother brought this up the other day. He said, I we were talking about all of the stuff in the news and what is happening, and not to get political or anything, but
Just so everybody, just for reference sake for the audience, it's March 21st, 2026.
exactly.
The
And
day after the vernal equinox. It is the second day of spring. Go ahead.
we're in this moment of heroes being tarnished. The Cesar Chavez news has just come out about his abuse of women and young girls, and then of course we're in the midst of this whole Epstein thing, and so I think this idea of women being subjugated, women being abused, is so vitally important, and we haven't solved it clearly. And we need to keep it front and foremost. My brother made the comment yesterday that he thought that the Me Too movement wasn't finished yet, that there still was more work to
Say
be.
that again.
He thinks that the Me Too movement,
Ah,
the early,
sure.
2020s,
No, I got it.
should is not finished yet. That there's more work to be done. And
You know,
so
it's interesting. Oh, go. I'm sorry. Don't mean to
go ahead.
interrupt.
No, that was
Just I felt I'm very frustrated by what's out there in the entertainment world on the small screen. It's like there's so much content and there's so many streaming services. And in my opinion, so much of what they're offering us to watch is terrible. It's either badly written, it's either badly shot, or it's badly acted, or it's all of the above. And so Bruce and I went back. It's the like 20th or 25th or 100th anniversary of a couple of old shows we loved and used to watch. One of them was ER, and one of them was The West Wing,
oh yeah.
which is pretty. I mean, I think in this day and age, it's kind of it's funny. It is funny how. Uh, so The West Wing is probably one of the best written things that's ever been on television, and I don't. You can argue with the opinions that are expressed in it, but you cannot argue that it's incredibly well written. That being said, the level of male chauvinism in that show in this day and age is startling.
Really?
To rewatch it now, and I mean, it's not every episode and it's not every minute, but it's very interesting and in some respects shocking. And so I think that just speaks to the conversation that you and your brother had.
Yeah. No, and it's shocking to me, the more that comes out, and the more that we learn about certain people that we revered for work that they did do. I mean, you know but then to find out that behind the scenes, some of the things that they were doing were abusive and harmful. It starts making you wonder, like, how pervasive is this? Is this?
Well, and not to defend, absolutely not to defend, but at a time when quite possibly that behavior was considered acceptable.
Yeah.
It's not the same as it's
But then when we're facing too this concern about whether women are going to be able to vote if they've ever been married, there's so many things happening in 2026 to restrict the rights of women, that to go back to the books. um, I think about one of my favorite movies is The Great Debaters with Denzel Washington. And there's a scene in there where one of the debaters, she's talking about the rights of Black people to go to college campuses. And she says, the time for justice is always, always right now. And so that's kind of what I feel too, is that the time for justice, the time for equality is always now, this moment.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, what made you, and again, we are going to go back to Lost Boy. What made you write? I mean, do you want to announce What made you write? So, the World of Samar, the epic fantasy series that we're talking about. Um, we're working on the 10th book. There is an 11th book, The Fugitives of Samar, and that was for 25 years, the end of the series. Is that like a really long time, right? You published the first one in 2010, is that correct?
For 9 years. Yeah,
Nine.
it's published in 2010, but for 9 years, yeah, this was the last of the for 11. 11 was the last of the series.
Yeah. When did you start Savior?
So all of there is probably 25 of the Samar books. This was before I got serious about my writing. I would start these books and I'd write, like 10, 12 chapters of these books, and then I'd just abandon them and I'd go on to the next one. And I did this for like 25 of these books. And so as we've talked before, I started the Samar series with Emerald back when I was in high school. And
That's what I thought.
so there's a lot of years there that I would write, and I would, like I said, I wasn't disciplined. And I wasn't even sure, writing was the hobby. Writing wasn't the the idea of being published or of making a living out of this was certainly not in the cards, for most of my life. And then when I finally got serious, I had this backlog of books that I had like 13 chapters already written of, or the basis of the story already developed. And so with Savior, the next book is going to be called The Savior of Eldon. With Savior, I had started back 9 years ago, reworking the chapters that were already written, because of course, what I wrote 20, 25 years ago didn't always hold up so well, in with the experience I have now with writing. But so I had started it, and I would, every once in a while, when I'd have a down moment between writing something else, I would pick the book back up and I would write a couple of chapters, and then I'd give it up and go on to something else. And I've done this for the last 9 years. And finally, I'm so far along in this book, I'm like, okay, this book needs to be finished. This is silly that I dragged this out for 9 years. I need to finish this book. I'm so close to the end now. And but every time I do this, I have to go back and I have to read the entire book again. To make sure I know what's happened in it. But so that's what the catalyst was that this is silly. This has gone on for 9 years, and I've been trying to get this book done, and it's not happening in these fits and starts. And so you and I sat down, which is something we've never done before, but we plotted out the whole year. And you set up a production schedule for us. In fact, I have it here on my desk. That we so far, sorry, knocking everything over. But here's our production schedule. I typed it up, and then this is the one that you have with the dates. And so far we've kept up with it, which is pretty exciting. I'm really excited about this.
One book.
Too.
Well, but remember, Cafe Amaretto was already on its way. It was already on its way. But no, we're doing good. We're doing good. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we're going to get. I think we can do it, and it is very exciting. Our fans should know that we anticipate a release, at least one release every single month in 2026.
Yeah.
So it's very exciting, and for the hardcore fans, that's relative because a couple of them are going to be box sets,
Right.
but you can always give them as gifts and or revisit the titles, right? But yeah, that actually gives us an opportunity to talk about, and I wanted to talk about this before it becomes sort of old news. We did our first pre-sale on Cafe Amaretto, the first time we had ever offered an audiobook on pre-sale, and actually at the recording, March 21st, 2026, Cafe Amaretto is on sale on Audible for 25% off, and Amazon. So if you're watching this and you're interested in getting involved in the Zion Sawyer Cozy Mystery Series, now would be a good time to do it because it is Audible put that book on sale, which is kind of exciting. And the pre-sale did offer the book at a sale price.
Right.
Now, do you think, so what was your impression of doing a pre-sale on an audiobook?
So I feel like you and I, it was kind of a fraught experience for both of us because it takes a lot of front loading. It's a lot of effort on our part to front load it, and
2 extra weeks,
yeah,
2 extra weeks for it to sit in the queue in the quality assurance field at ACX Audible.
right.
Just FYI, people. Yeah.
So when and we weren't getting any, we didn't, they weren't forthcoming with us on, or they don't have the capacity to tell us how many we had pre-sold the same way that I can do that with Amazon. And
Okay.
so we were kind of both, or well, for me, I'll speak for myself. I was kind of um it was kind of a fraught experience for me because I was like, what is the purpose of this? We spent so much time trying to intellectualize this and figure it out and do math, and math is not my strong suit. And so, but then
Well,
when it released, we had 59 pre-sales. So I kind of revised my feeling about it. I don't think it necessarily works for everything that we do. Like we both have decided that with the next two Samar books, we may not be able to do a pre-sale on that, but we're definitely talking about maybe doing it with the next Peyton coming out this summer, um, or early fall.
early fall, yeah.
Uh,
It was, yeah, there was no way to track the metrics. And I mean, and we actually won't know if those sales were additional sales or just early sales until we get some distance on it to compare it to the other titles.
exactly.
Yeah, and if we see a dip, then it really only was advanced sales, and if it's additional sales, then it could be audience building. I mean, the whole point of a pre-sale, right, is either is audience building and to drive sales. So
Yeah.
we'll be able to see if that happened.
Well,
The part
part of what the pre-sale does do is, and I'm not sure if this works with the audiobooks, but I know with the pre-sale on Amazon is the sales drive down your numbers. So the idea is always to get to number one, right? On
Mhm.
Amazon or ACX to be the number one title, which is virtually impossible. But um the lower your number is, that algorithm kicks in and they start sending your information out to other people who are other listeners or other readers. Again, I don't know that for sure that that's how ACX works, but I know that with Amazon, the lower you can get your numbers before the book even releases, the more likely that Amazon's going to kick in and do some advertising for you.
No,
And
I think ACX Audible, I think I'm sure they do because I've seen the emails, and I think maybe that might be the also the advantage to a pre-sale is that you get on that bandwagon
right,
of the free email blasts
yeah,
that go out. I mean, we've seen other Zion Sawyer mysteries uh sent out advertised in emails from Audible with some, New York Times bestseller
yeah,
books that are out there. So we're keeping good company, and I like that. But yeah, it'll be interesting. The other thing that was sort of frustrating is that we thought, and we were sort of the way it was presented to us, we were led to believe that we were going to have the opportunity to send complimentary copies out to our review team.
right.
And if you'd like to be a part of the storyteller review team and get a look at audiobooks for free and review them, contact us or leave a comment on Behind the Mic or visit our websites, kellyhazenarrates.com, mlhamilton.net, author mlhamilton.net. And let us know that you'd like to be on the review team or sign up for our newsletters. But we were not able to get complimentary copies out during the pre-sale so that the reviews were up at the point that the book went on regular sale. So, and the review team was cool. They went ahead and ordered the pre-sale copy, and a number of review team members got there. It was sort of amazing how fast they got their reviews up. It's the greatest review team in the world. I'm really excited, just thankful that these people found us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but maybe they're working on, retooling the system as well and trying to make it more effective for narrators and authors. Okay, so let's jump back to Lost Boy.
Okay.
And the part that I wanted to talk about, it's really, I loved recording this book. I love the device that you've used that Rue is writing in her diary. The entire book is our diary entries, and it's fun reading her writing to herself, and I love the fact that sort of the subliminal message is getting these kids to start thinking about journaling, which is such a helpful self-care tool.
Exactly.
And this whole thing leads me to I'd like to spend a few minutes and have us and talk about more,
Yeah.
which is the multiple option reading experience that ML and I came up with when, and this dates all the way back to that very first retreat we had years ago. I think Rue Cyprus was a glimmer in your eye. I don't know that you had started writing those books yet, but we came together. We'd been recording together for a couple years, I think, and
Yeah.
we decided to wind up. We had met once before that, and here at my house in Los Angeles, and we decided to take a retreat. I mean, we knew, I think at that point we had decided that we wanted to collaborate and work together on an ongoing basis. And so we decided to, you know, like good companies do, they have a retreat and kind of talk about their future and brainstorm their future. And the very last thing we talked about was that both of us saw how powerful the use of audiobooks combined with print books could be, not just in teaching kids to read or strengthening their ability to read, but how powerfully they could empower young readers on so many levels in so many areas. And so what was your take on that?
So from the moment I think,
Because you picked up, right? We talked about it. Yay, it's great. You're a teacher. Yeah, you have connection to curriculum, right? Because making it make sense in curriculum has a lot to do with it when you're talking about young kids, right? Even just from a, is this safe? Does this work kind of retail perspective for parents and, family members thinking, oh, should I get this for my kid? Not trying to get it into the schools, just trying to make it um, usable, right? And approachable. But as you are wont to do, right? I'm going to think about it for about 12 years. You picked up the bone and ran, and boom, we have Rue Cyprus. So go.
this goes back, I mean, it's kind of, there's a little bit of a backstory to this. This goes back. So, from, I have 32 years of experience in the educational system, working with reading and how kids acquire language and those reading milestones. And back years and years ago, they had offered us some, it doesn't happen very often, but they had offered us some money that we could use to enhance our classrooms. And the one thing that I wanted to do was get some audiobook CDs. They came in CDs, or they used to come in like cassette tapes. We had some cassette tapes. Uh,
That's a long time ago.
take on our road trips and stuff like that. But so I was very familiar that there was that resource, was, a long time ago, was available to people. And so they had offered us some money, and I bought some CDs, and the CDs were meant for students with learning disabilities. But what I found when I used them in the classroom was that all of the students benefited from hearing the CDs and being able to read the book at the same time. And then I met you, and from the very opening of when we met, you mentioned that you wanted to do something with bringing audiobooks. I think it was pretty early on in our collaboration. You mentioned something about bringing audiobooks to students and to do short stories. We talked a lot about doing some short stories. And then fast forward to, I manage, which I've mentioned many times, I managed the author's booth at the California State Fair. And I was looking for students in that books for students in that where they're first starting to read chapter books and learning how to extend their reading length of time, because we know that the longer that a student reads, the more, they build up that muscle, that reading muscle. And so I was not finding that there's a lot of books for young children that parents read to them, but there's not a lot of those chapter books, that transitional chapter book from, say, second to sixth grade. We have a lot of books in that young adult or young reader, sixth grade and on. um but that middle grade just isn't there. And so as I talked about wanting to bring this book forward, you and I started talking about um combining it with the audiobook, and that's when we came up with the more um multiple option reading experience situation. So what's interesting about it, what I think is really fascinating about it, is that I came in it from my experience of being a classroom teacher. You came in it from your experience being a trainer and being an audiobook producer, and we both had that same idea that this would be something that would be beneficial for young readers in that age group. And so it just seemed to be like this perfect, combination, because we both had that
Marriage.
goal.
Yeah.
I think is very interesting, because our backgrounds are somewhat different. Our career choices have been somewhat different, and yet we both saw this need and thought of a way to kind of address it. And when I sell the books in person, and I show the parents that are interested in the physical book, I show them that it comes with, there's an option to get an audiobook. They're really excited about that. And a lot of them will buy the book just for that fact that they know that they can get the audiobook as well for their child to read along on their own.
One of the when you there is a magic, and it's the same magic. There's a magic to listening,
Yes.
and I need defend that no farther than to point out the power of music.
Yes.
And speech is just another form of music,
Yes.
right? And it's just a different instrument, right? And it's the instrument of the human body. And when you give anyone the opportunity to listen, it sparks the imagination. Reading does the exact same thing, but there's a it is, you as you pointed out, there's a muscle there
Yes.
that has to be strengthened, and it has to be right. Listening, there's no choice.
No.
It there's a power to listening to something, and it sparks imagination, it sparks creativity, and it's different than giving someone a picture with sound,
Yes.
because then all the decisions are made,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost like, well, depending upon how the story's told in the picture, right? Most of the decisions are already made, and the viewer just is acted upon rather than participating. When you listen, you participate, and emotion and creativity and imagination and thought are elicited from you
Yes.
by the act of listening. And yeah, and it's that understanding. I mean, I don't imagine that there are very many people that don't like some kind of music, right? And so it's kind of that thing. If you like music, then you simply must entertain the idea
Yeah.
that what we're talking about is possible, and in fact probable, and in fact. And
Well,
so yeah.
what's interesting about that is I think about in the when I was teaching, we had a literature book, a anthology that we taught from for the honor students. And the first chapter, the first page of the first chapter had statement that has stuck with me forever. It said, humans are the storytelling animal. And I love that idea because if you think about it, the first time humans ever told stories were prehistoric man around a campfire, right? I mean, that was what
Sure.
did for how many, millennia until the printing press was discovered or invented.
Absolutely.
And so that idea, that oral tradition is ingrained in us in a DNA level, I think, in such like in our lizard brain, right? We have listened for so many from time immemorial to stories being told to us. The first thing you do with a child is you tell them stories or you read them stories. That's their first experience with the world around them. And to deny that, to say somehow that listening to a story diminishes the reading, um, diminishes
Ugh. Yeah.
that experience is asinine. It's
Yeah. Yeah. You actually, your comments, there's an incredible nonfiction book called The Storytelling Animal
oh
that specifically discusses how it works in our brains, and you're exactly right that it is embedded in our DNA, and that the way that it and it this that's the this book is all the, the stuff that goes on that makes us respond,
yeah,
that makes us want more, and that makes us tell our own stories.
yes, exactly. That's how we also learn how to tell our stories, right? Is we hear stories and then we learn how to tell our own stories, right? We are able to share that. I got a message from which I haven't told you about. I got a message from a woman on Facebook, and she messaged me and she wanted to know when the next Peyton was coming out. And she told me, she said, I've listened to every single one of the titles. She said they are my commuting family, and I don't know what to do when I'm commuting to work without my commuting family. And I thought that was just the most beautiful, lovely comment that she shared with us, that we helped her get to work. I mean, that's pretty cool. I feel very honored by that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To know that, yeah, that people enjoy our work so much that it becomes a regular part of their lives, especially what you're talking about. That, I mean, we are a part of this woman's routine.
Yes,
It's like, yeah, honored is exactly the way to describe it.
pack
Well,
is taking off right now.
who?
The pack is barking.
All right. Well, that's I've checked everything off my list. So I think that's it for us on this Behind the Mic. What's our next book?
So we are having Renegade will be out tentatively, we believe, around May 1st.
May 1st.
Kind of do a quick rundown, and then we'll have The Fugitive of Eldon out around June 1st.
Mhm.
And then our box set. Sorry, let me stop the hounds. Hey, girls, that's enough. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, we have our box set, which will be the last. It will be
July 1st, I think.
Renegade and Fugitive. It'll be the three titles. That will be out in July. And then the 12th book, Savior of Eldon, will be out in August. And then I know the one that everybody is super excited for. We will have the hate crimes book, Peyton Brooks' Hate Crimes, Church Arsonist, out in September.
So
So
it's going to be a World of Samar summer.
it's a World of Samar summer, and then we'll have the Peyton fall, because
Yeah.
after the Church Arsonist, it will be Behind the Trigger, which will end the early cases series.
Yes, and that box set will be out for Christmas.
Yes, exactly.
And it's the complete series in one box set.
Exactly.
And I will have accomplished my goal
Of
of finishing Samar
yes,
as it stands.
yes.
Only about a year late, but that's okay. I say that's okay.
I agree. I mean, those require a commitment to finish. So, but
Okay. Well,
did it.
it's been great.
Yeah. All right, lady. This has been Behind the Mic number 29. Look for the release of The Lost Boys. Oh, we didn't give the date. On April 3rd. The Case of the Lost Boy. Sorry. Need
A
to
Rue Cyprus Mystery Book 3.
Exactly, and that will be out on April 3rd, just in time for holiday travels for the Easter weekend.
Hmm.
And I think it's not just for kids. I think it's a fun, entertaining little mystery, even for adults. So
Absolutely. It is fun. There are a lot of adult characters, and anybody who's had any experience of any kind with kids, it's the biggest smile. It's a lot of fun.
yeah. All right, Kelly. Happy second day of spring.
Same to you.
And we will be back in May
Mm,
with our Behind the Mic for the Renegade album.
Absolutely. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for Hamilton and Hazen Behind the Mic. Visit authormlhamilton.net and kellyhazennarrates.com to join our newsletters for more insider news and views. Today's episode is sponsored by Phoenix Publication Services, PPS, Digital Shepherds. Let us ignite your writing goals.